I didn't want to live to see what was going to come from that movie anyway. And it might be my only chance into heaven. Now, people can say, Jim, you just don't know the Bible. Get out. It's what you do. Faith without your works is dead. 1 James. So many people say, but they don't do. And I was doing. And I felt good at what I had done and was doing. Now, fifth take, it was bizarre. The wind was blowing hard, and the clouds were. It felt like I could jump up and touch them, and that was very mystical. What was happening in the ground? You could feel something in the ground, and then the wind was blowing, and I couldn't. I could see everybody. There were about 350 people that were around me on a hill, and the wind was blowing, and then I couldn't hear the wind, and I could feel the suctioning occur, and then it was probably more like 3 seconds. It felt like 5, but it was probably less than that, and then boom, I shot me out of my body. I saw the back side, not here, and then I was back. Then Jan Michelini runs over, and I remember looking at him, and all of a sudden I saw his hand blow up. Sparks came out. There was another shot that came down, and then I was in shock. And then so I was on a lot of medication until 2009 was my first surgery at Stanford. And then my second one was at Cleveland Clinic in 2014. And that saved me, saved my life. I died on the operating table. I've never told that, but I died. Dr. Gillenoff, Dr. Griffin were my doctors. They witnessed it. They brought me back. But I was supposed to be here. But the reason why I brought that up is I felt incredible peace and love that's waiting for us.
When you died?
Yes. It was amazing. And I didn't, I had this, just hang on for a second. It was really calm. And then I saw the whole thing. It didn't hurt. The moment it was like taking an egg, cracking it, and then it just came out, and I was dead. I didn't have to breathe anymore. And I was looking at everybody running the room, and they were panicking. And they were doing stuff, but they were really scared.
Wow, you remember this?
No, I saw it. I watched the whole thing. And I watched everything. And then I saw them put the flaps on, and then when I came back, that's when it hurt. But I heard the horn go off. And it didn't hurt my ears. But it was like when I first met God, when he asked me to become an actor, I felt this great peace and love. The reason why I'm talking about it right now is because so many people don't have the peace. They don't have the love. And when I was on the cross, Jesus, he says 7 things. And he says, woman, behold your son. To John, he says this. John, behold your mother. In Aramaic, woman is inthatha. And then he calls her also Emi, mother. He differentiates. People have to say, why? And the woman is Genesis. I will put enmity between the woman's seed and his. And the Mother Mary is the ark. She carries the Son of God to us. And she is the most beautiful thing there's ever been. And he asks me to love. I'm obeying Jesus. I'm obeying him. Jim, why don't you go to Jesus? Because I'm obeying Jesus. when he told me to take the mother and the sons of Zebedee were at the foot of the cross. The mother of Zebedee, James and John, their mother was there. I'm sure she went, wait, I'm the mother. Jesus often talks about who's my brother, who's my sister, you know. And he also says, I didn't come to bring peace into this world. I came like a sword to divide. And that's the generational sin that's passed on. A lot of us lose our own families. He says, who's my brother? You're my brother. You know, we're not of the same DNA, but we're adopted under God. You're my adopted brother, you know, my sister, family. We can have new families, people that support us in our love for him. And you'll find that, you know, it's like how Jesus found these fishermen to lead the church. My God, it's incredible. He's still looking for good fishermen, still looking for good Davids.
When you had that out-of-body experience on the operating table, when you were revived, was there any time for feeling, oh man, I don't know if I want to go back? Or was it just all of a sudden snap of the finger and you're back?
There's an intelligence with the soul that's bizarre. It knows the distance when God lands in a room. Why that's significant? It just is. Your soul knows another language. So the moment I died, I could feel and understand this. Hang on a second. We've got this kind of a thing.
Okay.
But you're dead. It's all good. But on that side, it's like nothing. It's amazing, you know. And I had an experience when I was doing the Passion, and Jesus visited me a couple times. It was pretty amazing. And one of them was, he was off the left side of my bed, and he was weeping. And it was extraordinary because I was so cold. I had a crucifix, the true cross in my left hand. It was chained around my wrist, and I was hypothermic, so it was over 90 degrees in the room, and I had tons and tons of clothes on, and I was shaking. And it hurt to shake because my shoulder was torn. And I looked over the left side of my bed, and there he was. And I didn't hesitate. I didn't go, oh my gosh, I'm having an apparition here. I just went, why is my Lord weeping? And I got on my bed and I put my arms around him. And I said, Lord, what's wrong? And he pointed to the ground. And on the ground were all of these cards, jacks, kings and queens, no number cards, just jacks, kings, and queens. And they had all these face cards all over. And their faces were death faces. Jesus says, I am the vine, you are the branches. You live in me, live for eternal life, you know. But when the leaf separated from the tree, that was their death mask, right before they entered into hell. These people were giving incredible gifts all throughout time. And they started with 1 for me, 9 for God, 2 for me, 8 for God, and eventually 9 for me, 1 for God, and then all for me. This is how the game works. And I knew that he was telling me when I asked him, I don't want them to see me, I only want them to see you. I believe he was warning me. Do you understand that where this could go? Because there's going to be a version of you going to heaven, and then there's a version of you going to hell. And I said, I will never betray you. I know what Peter said. I've learned from them. I will not do that to you. When you asked me earlier, you've done this, 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 this. Yes, those are good things. But you don't want to have a zero in your life. 1 times 0 is 0, but so is 1 billion times 0. You lose everything. So it's a daily thing. And finish the race and finish it strong.
That's a great way to put it. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Let's move into your latest project, Sounds of Freedom, with Tim Ballard. How did that come about?
By making the right decision today. Tim Ballard saw The Count of Monte Cristo, and that was a rough one. That was a hard film, because there was a point there where they removed God from the screenplay. And I asked them to put it back in, and they did. But the scenes were too long. They had to be shortened. But that God will give me justice was not in there when I got the rewrite, when I came to Ireland to shoot it. That had to go back in. So I was the wrong guy for the movie unless they put it back in. Thankfully, they did. So that's the film that Tim saw. The other film was The Passion, and he was profoundly moved by those 2 films. Now, because of the trouble I got in after The Passion, when they clearly said this is an anti-Semitic film, and I clearly said that Jesus is a Jew, and we have science behind this. I've done nothing wrong, and this film is a righteous film. And look at the public. They love this movie. Why will you not allow me to work in this town? Okay, now I did get parts. I had friends that gave me great favors and helped me along, but it wasn't the same from that point on. Now, Tim Ballard saw those 2 films, and had I not made the decision, I'd never, been a part of it. But again, when God asked me, I'd like you to be an actor, it wasn't going to be easy. This was going to be one of the hardest things I've ever done. And it just short of The Passion. But it was the hardest thing because of the children. Now, Tim Ballard came to me. First was Eduardo Verostegui, the producer of the movie, and Alejandro Monteverdi, the director. Both very talented and both extremely needed in this particular team. It required a producer that was going to lose all the money on the movie, and we were finished. Disney was going to buy Fox. So Disney, obviously, when they saw this movie, there are executives that want the film, but they're, eventually the bad one out, and this is not something they want to represent their company. Count of Monte Cristo, okay, but not this one. They did not want me for this role. Whoever it was at Fox, when Tim met with them, and he said, no, I gotta have this guy. This is who I want. So I met those 3 individuals, and that led us to go down to Colombia. And my wife just saw a movie or a show called Narcos, and she didn't want me anywhere near down there in this particular time when we were down there. It was crazy. And Tim said, well, tell Carrie, my wife, that Jim will have 30 Navy SEALs around him. Sure, some of them are Rangers and Delta too, but anyway. They always say SEAL teams. But anyway, one day I was at work. She gets on the phone. She calls me, and she goes, do you have protection around there? I said, oh, yeah. And I don't know, maybe only 2 today. Where are they? They told me. And well, in this particular moment, they were on a mission. They took down a really big group of guys, and they saved 200 children while we were filming. So it was wasn't the safest place. We were at one point we were in cartel, and I area and where we were shooting. I went to go get my sunglasses, and I had guys like you coming up to me and going, "You can't ever do that again. They'll pick you up here in a heartbeat." And we were in their territory.
What part of Colombia were you in?
Bogota, Cartagena, Santa Marta,
Santa Marta,
and then Medellin.
Oh, you did quite the tour.
Oh yeah.
So, let me just. I don't know a whole lot about the film as it's not out yet, but it's about, from my understanding, it's about the life of Tim Ballard, what he's doing, and what he's doing is saving children all across the world from being sex trafficked, exploited sexually.
Yeah, so he CIA moves to Homeland Security, and the frustration is he's getting these pedophiles and these traffickers, but he's not able to save the children. That's what he really wants to do. They were down in Calexico, and where they took down the guy, Ernst Limpachinsky, the guy that I come in one of the worst trafficker pedophiles I've ever seen. And they picked this guy up, and this little boy, about 5 years old, and he says, "Will you save my sister?" And that is a question. It's like a mark on his heart, and he couldn't. It's like the Bible where Jesus says the kingdom of heaven. It's like a pearl. He would sell everything, do anything to attain this. That's what he did. He went down to Colombia, sold his house to hit the money what he had out. And he was 10 days of getting his pension, and he goes down to Colombia to find this little girl. So it's like.
That's what Tim did?
Yeah, that's what he did.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So it's taken the film, but with a huge heart,
So is the entire film in Colombia?
Yes. Well, I mean, we shot it parts in the U.S. and Calexico at the border.
Okay.
As well.
Let's talk about some facts.
Sure.
To go into sex trafficking. It's considered a modern form of slavery. The United States is the #1 consumer and producer of child abuse content. The Department of Homeland Security estimates that child trafficking has an annual global profit of $150 billion. Human trafficking has already passed the illegal arms trade and is going to pass the drug trade. About 2 million children are trafficked every year worldwide. That's how serious this is. That's just a few.
That's just the
facts.
beginning of it all. I mean, the trafficking, it's first part to the public. I've learned you get too far in front of the narrative, they don't believe you. If you were talking about trafficking around 290, when I was doing Monte Cristo, you never heard about it. And it would be conspiracy theorists.
Do you think this is getting bigger, or do you think that the information is just getting out? Do you think, I guess what I'm asking, do you think it was always this?
I think it's much bigger.
You think it's growing?
Oh, I think it's already bigger than that. I think it's much bigger because I've talked to Tim about the numbers from other guys and then gone over to Tim and goes, yeah, I mean, those are good numbers and everything, but it's bigger than that because there's other forms of the business.
This is just what we know.
Yes, on that part. I mean, it's we've been talking about 6 million. 2 million at least are also involved in the organ harvesting and all the other shit that's the stuff that it's just beyond. They're cattle. These are cattle. It's like buying cows. What do you do with a cow? You milk them, you do it, but you also eat the meat and all that other stuff. And it's far worse than people are willing to go to. But listen, it's not going to solve the problem by people this is an analogy. I was swimming in the ocean. I got into swimming and everything, and on the Ridley Scott movie, and I swam, and it was kind of freeing, you know, breaking the surf and doing all that. But just that when you're, you know, I don't know how many hundreds of feet down or how deep you are, some great white shark looking at you and going, "Is that a seal? What is?" And I say, "God, please tell them I'm a human then, or something they shouldn't mess with." But anyway, I just I would pray in the water, you know, just and of course the common sense in me is like, you know, you have a better chance of going down an airliner. But anyway, I went out and was filming in South Africa, and I got to dive great whites. It was fascinating. And every time we'd chum the water, and then we'd throw a tuna head out, and the great white would come by. He never just munched it, ever, never, not once. They always bumped. And so I guarantee you that if you were in the water and you got bumped by a great white, the guy said to me, "What do you think they're doing?" He says, "They have a little brain. Yours is bigger than theirs. You have to be smarter than them." And he said, "Yeah, but," I said, some of these fish, they're like whales, they're like 2 tons. And he says, "Do you think they went to school in the morning, mate? Do you think they sat there and said, 'You weigh 4,000 pounds, he's only 200 pounds? No, you have to be smarter than them." So what do you do if a great white bumps you? And I said, "Well, I'd be scared, and I would swim to shore." Oh, and he says, "You know how fast they can swim in the water?" He says, at 40 miles an hour. So the fastest swimmer in the world can outswim this. So that's the smart guy. Now, he's actually the dumb guy. And when you splash, 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 you are saying, "Come eat me." It's exciting him. He said, "Oh, your food. Okay. It's nothing personal." Yeah, but he's going to have to eat you. So if you program it in your brain that you're swimming and you think about it a lot, what would you do? And he bumped you. If you immediately attacked him, because it's only an instant that he bumps you, and you scratch his eyeball or grab his gill, he's gone. Doesn't want to mess with you, because these sharks, these great whites in the womb, if there's 7 babies in there, the winner is the one that eats all of them. That's how they're born. That's how they are fed in the womb. Then they're born and they come out fighting. And so they know if they don't know what you are, they're going to bump you to see what you do. So think of that when it comes to children. All right, you have 4 children. It's 4th of July. You're sitting outside there, and you don't want to know about all the bad things that are going on. Your child's taken. You're never going to see that child again. Now, go to that mother and father and ask them, would you have wished you had some sort of plan that could have prevented that from happening? They're going to say yes, but they won't. They won't do it. And if you just looked around, the film is powerful because when you watch it, you learn, oh, these are the warning signs. This is how routinely it occurs. This is what they're looking for. Then when you're looking, and it's what I talked about earlier, God here, it's like Michael the archangel, you're with you, and you're a stalker. You're a predator. You're letting them know. You'll go after them. And they don't want anything to do with this. So the great white walks away. No more trouble. No more. Why people don't do this, I don't understand. But this is not the Bible that I know, that I read. We have to weaponize ourselves from God's shield and his protection and stop being afraid of the devil. Do you know more Christians, these modern day Christians, are more afraid of the devil than they are of God? Let me explain. God could kill the devil without a glance. The devil has no chance against God. This isn't it, God here and the devil here, Jesus here and the devil here. It's this. It's more like, here's a creature, devil, here's a creature, human. What are we? I'm going to ask Almighty to come into me and to not be afraid. We talked about it earlier. Jesus, in Scripture, 365 times, one time every day in the Bible, says, do not be afraid.